The alien technician's four hands moved quickly across the monitoring station's controls. Something was wrong, very wrong. For the first time in 300 years, the signal from Earth had gone silent. "Sir," he called out to his supervisor, his scales turning a pale shade of blue in distress. "We've lost all communications with the human homeworld." Station Chief Robert Walker, one of the few humans working at the Galactic Council's communication hub, looked up from his reports. Unlike his alien colleagues, he showed no immediate signs of concern. Instead, a slight smile played at the corners of his mouth. "Have you tried the backup channels?" he asked, his voice steady and professional. The technician bobbed his head. "Yes, sir. All 47 of them. Even the emergency quantum link is dead." His hands were shaking now. "This has never happened before. Not in all my years of monitoring." Walker stood up and walked to the main display. The familiar blue dot that represented Earth was still there, but the usual stream of data flowing from it had vanished completely. Around him, other alien technicians were starting to notice, their various appendages and sensory organs twitching with growing anxiety. Earth had always been an oddity in the galactic community, while other worlds rushed to join the Galactic Council, embracing the advanced technology and trade opportunities it offered. Earth had kept its distance. They accepted basic trade agreements but refused full membership. Many species considered humans primitive, barely worthy of notice. But there were rumors. Whispers in space stations and trading posts about ships that vanished near Earth's solar system. Stories of human traders who seemed to know too much about advanced technology, yet played dumb when questioned. Tales of Earth's military exercises that somehow masked energy signatures that should have been impossible to hide. The station's alert system suddenly blared to life. On the main screen, a message flashed in bright red. "Warning. QUNTUVM field ANOMALYDGTCTED. Earth vicinity." Walker tapped a few commands into his console, his movements deliberate and unhurried. The screen zoomed in on Earth, and gasps filled the room. A shimmering barrier was forming around the planet, unlike anything in the Council's records. "Impossible," muttered a senior analyst, their eye stalks extended in disbelief. "Their technology level shouldn't allow for planetary shielding. We never shared those advances with them." Walker checked his watch, an oddly primitive gesture that had always amused his colleagues. "Send word to the Council," he ordered, his voice carrying an authority that hadn't been there before. "Tell them Earth has gone dark. All channels." As the message was sent, the room erupted into frantic activity. Sensors were recalibrated, probes were launched, and emergency protocols were initiated. But Walker remained calm, watching the chaos with an almost detached interest. A junior analyst rushed up to him, clutching a datapad. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures across Earth's surface. The readings, they're off the charts. Should we classify this as a potential threat?" Walker took the pad, studied it for a moment, then handed it back. "No," he said simply. "Mark it as a significant development requiring Council attention. Nothing more." As the day wore on, more reports flooded in. Earth's orbital satellites had gone silent. Trading ships were being turned away by automated warnings. The planet that many had dismissed as a backwater had suddenly become the biggest mystery in the galaxy. In his private office later that night, Walker sent one final message, not through the Council's networks, but through a channel so well hidden that even he didn't fully understand how it worked. The message was simple: "It's begun." Then he sat back in his chair and smiled, knowing that across the galaxy, other humans in similar positions were doing exactly the same thing. After centuries of waiting, watching, and preparing, humanity was finally ready to show its true face to the stars. The galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy. Hundreds of alien representatives filled the massive room, their worried whispers echoing off the crystal walls. At the center of attention stood Ambassador Thomas Reed, the last human diplomat officially working with the Council. "Ambassador," the Council leader spoke, his crystalline body glowing with concern. "You claim to have no knowledge of Earth's sudden isolation." Reed adjusted his simple black suit, a stark contrast to the elaborate robes worn by other representatives. "I am as surprised as you are," he said calmly, "but I volunteer to lead the investigation." The chamber erupted in objections. A reptilian delegate rose from his seat, scales bristling. "How can we trust him? He's human. This could be part of their plan." Reed didn't flinch. Instead, he pulled out an old-fashioned paper notebook, another oddity that had always made other species view humans as primitive. "I've lived off-world for 20 years, he said, writing something down. "Earth is as much a mystery to me as it is to you." After hours of heated debate, the council agreed. They had no choice. Every probe they'd sent toward Earth had stopped working the moment it touched the strange barrier. The next day, Reed boarded the council's most advanced scout ship, the Stellar Seeker. The ship's alien crew watched him nervously as he settled into his quarters, a simple room with just a bed and a desk. As they approached Earth's solar system, the ship's captain, a tall insectoid being named first speaker, called Reed to the bridge. "Ambassador, look at these readings." The main screen showed Earth, now completely encased in a shimmering field of energy. But something else caught Reed's attention. He pointed to a series of numbers scrolling across a side display. "What are those?" The ship's science officer, their tentacles waving in agitation, answered, "Energy readings from the planet's surface." "They're impossible. The power levels we're detecting would require technology centuries beyond what Earth should possess." Reed wrote in his notebook again, his face unreadable. "Take us closer," he ordered. "I want to see something." As the ship approached the barrier, their sensors began picking up more details. Massive structures were appearing all across Earth's surface, hidden until now by technology that shouldn't exist. Orbital platforms materialized out of nowhere, their designs unlike anything in council records. "Ambassador," first speaker chittered nervously, "these structures, they're not new. The metal shows age. They've been there for years, maybe decades, hidden somehow." Reed nodded, still writing. "Interesting. And what about those?" He pointed to several large objects moving behind Earth's moon. The science officer adjusted their instruments, then froze. "Those are shipyards. Massive ones. But that's impossible. We've been monitoring Earth's space program for centuries. They barely managed to reach their own moon." "Did they?" Reed asked quietly, closing his notebook. "Or is that what they wanted you to think?" Before anyone could respond, a new alert sounded. The barrier around Earth was changing, patterns of energy flowing across its surface like waves on an ocean. The crew watched in stunned silence as a small section of the barrier opened, creating a pathway just large enough for a single ship. "It seems," Reed said, standing up straight, "Earth is ready to talk. But only on their terms." He turned to first speaker, his expression serious. "The question is, are you ready to learn the truth about humanity?" The captain looked at the display, where more structures were appearing by the minute, then back at Reed. "Do we have a choice?" Reed smiled slightly. "There's always a choice, but I suggest you choose carefully. The galaxy is about to change forever." The crew watched in silence as their ship moved toward the opening in Earth's barrier, each member wondering what secrets awaited them on the other side. The first sign of trouble came from a small military outpost in the Centauri sector. Their weapons systems suddenly shut down, all at once, without any warning. The alien commander tried everything to get them back online, but nothing worked. Then it happened again, this time at a major fleet base, and again at a high-security research facility. Within days, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Defense systems failing, security protocols breaking down, and classified information simply vanishing. In the Council's Emergency Command Center, alerts flashed across screens as more facilities reported problems. The Council's head of security, a tall, gray-skinned being named First Guardian, stared at the growing list of affected sites. "Show me the pattern again," he ordered, his deep voice echoing in the quiet room. A holographic map appeared, showing hundreds of red dots where systems had failed. One of the analysts, her crystalline form glittering under the emergency lights, pointed to a crucial detail. "Sir, look at the timing. Each failure happens exactly 17 minutes after the last." First Guardian leaned closer. "Like clockwork. This isn't random. Someone's doing this on purpose." He turned to his team. "What do these facilities have in common?" "Nothing obvious, sir," another analyst replied. "Different security systems, different builders, different." He stopped suddenly, his eyes widening. "Wait. They all bought parts from human traders at some point in the last century." The room fell silent. First Guardian walked to another screen showing Earth, still hidden behind its mysterious barrier. Cross-referenced the failure locations with known human trade routes. The map changed, and everyone saw it. Every affected facility lay along paths that human ships had traveled over the past 100 years. Just then, the main screen lit up with an urgent message. The Council's most secure quantum encryption system, believed to be unbreakable, had been compromised. The strange thing was, nothing had been stolen. The system just opened itself, as if showing them it could. First Guardian was about to respond when his personal communicator buzzed. The message was short. "Check your defense mainframe. Any defense mainframe." He rushed to a nearby terminal and entered his highest-level access codes. What he saw made his gray skin turn almost white. Hidden deep in the code of every major defense system in Council space was a tiny signature, lines of programming so well hidden that they had gone unnoticed for decades. "Get me Ambassador Reed," he commanded. But Reed was nowhere to be found. His quarters on the Stellar Seeker were empty, his simple notebook left open on the desk. The only thing written on the last page was, "Time to wake up." As First Guardian read this message, more reports came in. Planetary shields were activating and deactivating at random. Weapon systems were powering up and down. Space stations were changing their orbits slightly, then moving back. None of these actions caused any damage. They were demonstrations. In the Council chamber, panic was spreading. "How?" one representative demanded. "How could they hide this level of technology? We monitored them for centuries." An old trade minister spoke up, his voice shaking. "We watched their official programs, their public development. But think, how many times did human traders ask questions about our technology? How many times did they offer to repair our systems, to help maintain our networks?" Understanding dawned on the Council members' faces. While they had watched humanity's space program struggle to reach Mars, human traders and engineers had spread across the galaxy, quietly learning, analyzing, and planting seeds of code in every system they touched. First Guardian looked at the latest report and felt a chill. A single message was appearing on screens across Council space. "For centuries, you thought you were watching us. Now we're ready to show you what you missed." The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what humanity would reveal next. A single ship emerged from Earth's barrier. It wasn't large or threatening, just a sleek vessel about the size of a standard transport. But something about it made every sensor in the Council's defense network light up with warnings. Commander Jane Miller sat in the pilot's seat, her simple black uniform bearing no rank or insignia. Next to her, Ambassador Reed checked their course to the Council's central station. "Ready?" she asked, her fingers moving across the control panel. Reed nodded. "They're watching us. Every weapon in the sector is locked on this ship." Miller smiled. "Let them watch." The ship moved forward, ignoring all hails and demands to stop. When the Council's defense fleet moved to intercept, Miller pressed a single button. Every ship in the fleet suddenly lost power, drifting harmlessly in space. "No damages," Miller announced to the panicking crews. "Your systems will restart in exactly 10 minutes. Consider this a demonstration." In the Council chamber, Representatives from 1,000 worlds watched in stunned silence as the human ship approached. Some called for immediate military action. Others wanted to surrender before things got worse. Most just waited, frozen in fear or curiosity. The ship stopped directly above the chamber's transparent dome. A beam of light appeared, and two figures materialized in the center of the room, Miller and Reed, standing calmly as if they'd just walked through a door. "Hello," Miller said, her voice carrying easily through the large space. "We think it's time for an honest conversation." The council leader rose from his seat, his crystalline form flickering with nervous energy. You can't just appear in here. This chamber has the strongest security in the galaxy." Reed corrected gently. "You really should have asked more questions when we helped upgrade your systems 50 years ago." Miller stepped forward, drawing everyone's attention. "For centuries, you saw what we wanted you to see. A primitive species, barely able to reach their own moon, struggling with basic spaceflight, asking simple questions about technology we'd already mastered." She waved her hand, and a hologram appeared, showing Earth's true face. Massive cities with technology far beyond the Council's understanding, orbital rings that could move planets, and ships that made the Council's fleet look like children's toys. "While you watched our clumsy rockets," Miller continued, "we were learning. Every trade deal, every repair job, every seemingly innocent question. We were analyzing your technology, improving it, and preparing for this day." "Why?" someone shouted. "Why hide all this?" "Because we needed to be sure," Reed answered. "Sure of how you used your power. Sure of how you treated weaker species. Sure of whether the galaxy was safe in your hands." He paused. "We've made our decision." Miller pressed something on her wrist, and suddenly every screen in council space lit up with the same message. "The time for change has come." "We're not here to conquer," Miller explained, her voice firm but not unkind. "We're here to fix what's broken, to help those you've ignored, to make things right." The council leader found his voice. "And if we refuse?" Miller's expression didn't change. "That's not really an option. We control your defense systems, your communications, your trade networks, everything you thought was secure. We could shut it all down with a single command. But we won't," Reed added quickly, "because that's not who we are. Instead, we're offering a chance to build something better. Together." The chamber erupted in chaos, questions, demands, threats, and pleas all mixing together. But Miller and Reed stood quietly, waiting. They had planned this moment for generations. A few more minutes wouldn't matter. Above them, their ship hung silently in space, a small reminder of humanity's hidden power. The galaxy would never be the same, but maybe, just maybe, it would be better. In a secure room deep within the council station, First Guardian watched in amazement as Ambassador Reed revealed humanity's greatest secret. Holographic displays showed centuries of careful planning, each piece fitting together like a massive puzzle. "It began with the first alien ship that crashed on Earth," Reed explained, showing an image from the 1940s. "We didn't just study the technology. We completely changed how we approached space exploration." The room was filled with key council members, each chosen for their influence and integrity. Commander Miller stood by the door, watching their reactions as Reed continued the presentation. "Every time you shared technology with us," Reed said, bringing up another display, "we didn't just copy it. We took it apart, rebuilt it, and made it better. Those primitive human engineers you allowed to repair your ships, they were our best scientists, gathering data." First Guardian leaned forward. "But our sensors never detected any advanced technology on Earth." "How?" Miller smiled. "Because we learned how your sensors worked, then developed our technology in ways you wouldn't think to look for. It's easy to hide something when you know exactly what the searcher expects to see." Reed touched a control, and the room filled with images of seemingly ordinary human traders, workers, and diplomats. Every human who traveled among the stars had a purpose. Some gathered information. Others planted tiny pieces of code in your systems. A few just watched and reported back. Looking for what? Someone asked. Everything, Miller answered. How you treated weaker species, how you handled conflicts, whether you used your power wisely. She paused. Most importantly, whether you could be trusted with the technology you had. The display changed to show thousands of documented cases, corrupt officials taking bribes, powerful worlds bullying weaker ones, resources being stolen from developing planets, all carefully recorded by watching humans. While you thought we were struggling with basic spaceflight, Reed continued, we were building something new. Technology that doesn't just copy nature, it works with it. Energy systems that don't just take power, they give back more than they use. He brought up images of Earth's hidden achievements, cities that floated in the sky, ships that could fold space itself, medical technology that could rebuild entire bodies from a single cell. The barrier around Earth. Miller added, it's not just a shield. It's a field that lets us reshape reality itself. We could have used it for weapons, but we chose a different path. First Guardian stood up slowly. Why reveal everything now? Why not stay hidden? Reed and Miller exchanged looks. Because it's time, Reed said simply. The galaxy is at a tipping point. Too many species have too much power and too little wisdom. Someone needs to guide things in a better direction. Not control, Miller added quickly, seeing the fear in some faces. Guide. Help. Teach. We've learned a lot in our centuries of watching, including what not to do with power. The room fell silent as the council members absorbed everything. Finally, First Guardian spoke again. All this time, we thought we were the advanced ones, looking down at primitive Earth. But you were the ones testing us, weren't you? Reed nodded. And now we're ready to work together. Really work together, to make things better. But only if you're willing to change. And if we're not? Someone asked nervously. Miller's expression remained calm. Then we'll do it anyway. We control enough of your infrastructure to force changes. But we'd rather have partners than subjects. The message was clear. Humanity had hidden their power not out of fear, but wisdom. They had watched, learned, and prepared. Now they were ready to help guide the galaxy towards something better. The question was, would the galaxy accept their help or fear their power? The Earth's barrier dissolved like morning mist, revealing what lay behind it. The Council's observation fleet watched in stunned silence as humanity's true face emerged. Massive orbital rings circled the planet, their surfaces gleaming with energy patterns no one understood. Space stations larger than cities hung in perfect formation. Ships of impossible designs moved with grace that made the Council's best vessels look clumsy in comparison. On the Council station's main observation deck, Commander Miller stood with the gathered representatives. This is just one planet, she said quietly. One world that you thought was primitive. The displays showed more details. Power stations that drew energy from space itself, defense systems that could redirect asteroids with a thought, and construction yards that built ships atom by atom. First Guardian stepped forward. You said you want to help, not conquer. Prove it. Miller nodded to Reed, who activated a hidden command in his old notebook. Suddenly, screens throughout the station came to life, showing thousands of recordings. Each one revealed corruption, theft, or abuse of power by Council officials. We have evidence of every bad decision, every corrupt deal, every time you looked away from injustice, Reed explained. But we also have this. He changed the display, showing instances where Council members had fought against corruption, helped weaker species, or sacrificed their own interests for the greater good. You're not evil, Miller continued. Just stuck, trapped in old ways of thinking. We can help you change that. A reptilian delegate hissed angrily. By forcing us? By controlling our systems? No, Miller replied. By showing you a better way. Look. The main screen showed a small farming world on the edge of Council space. Its people were poor, their technology barely advancing because larger worlds kept them dependent. As they watched, human ships appeared in orbit. "Watch what happens when we help them our way," Miller said. The ships didn't land with soldiers or demands. Instead, they sent down small devices that cleaned the planet's polluted water. They provided plans for better farming equipment that the people could build themselves. They showed them how to use their own resources wisely. "This is what real power looks like," Reed explained. "Not controlling others, but helping them stand on their own." Miller turned to face the council. "You have a choice. Work with us to fix what's broken in the galaxy, or watch as we do it anyway. We control your networks, your defense systems, your trade routes, everything you thought was secure. We could shut it all down." "But we won't," Reed added quickly, "because that's not the point. The point is to make things better, together." First Guardian studied the displays showing Earth's true power. "And if we refuse, then we'll protect the weak anyway," Miller answered. "We'll stop corruption anyway. We'll help people anyway. The only question is whether you want to be part of the solution or part of the problem." The council chamber erupted in debate. Some wanted to fight, to prove they couldn't be pushed around. Others saw the wisdom in what humanity offered. Most just wondered how they had missed so much for so long. "You have one standard day to decide," Miller announced. "But remember, we've spent centuries watching, learning, and preparing. We know exactly who has been helping the galaxy grow and who has been holding it back." As if to emphasize her point, Earth's orbital rings pulsed with energy, sending waves of light across the system. It wasn't a threat, just a reminder of what humanity could do if they chose. The message was clear. Change was coming to the galaxy. The only choice was whether to embrace it or resist it. And humanity had already proven they were very, very good at dealing with resistance. 1 month after humanity's ultimatum, the galaxy was changing faster than anyone had expected, not through force or fear, but through something more powerful, hope. In the newly reformed council chamber, Commander Miller and Ambassador Reed sat with representatives from 1,000 worlds. The old hierarchy was gone. Now seats were earned through actions, not power or wealth. "Report from the Outer Rim," a young alien delegate announced, her wings shimmering with excitement. "The water purification systems are working better than expected. 3 more worlds have clean oceans now." Reed made a note in his familiar notebook. No longer a prop, but a symbol of humanity's patient observation, and the mining corporations that were polluting those worlds. "They're adapting to the new methods Earth showed them," another delegate replied. "Turns out clean mining is more profitable when you have the right technology." The massive screen behind them showed scenes from across the galaxy, old enemies working together on joint projects, poor worlds building their own advanced technology with human guidance, corrupt officials being replaced by those who had secretly fought against corruption for years. Miller stood up, drawing everyone's attention. "It's been 1 month since we revealed ourselves. Time for the first major test." She nodded to Reed, who activated a special display. The screen showed a massive fleet of ships approaching a distant system. Not Earth ships. These belonged to the old guard, council members who had rejected change and fled to the edges of known space. "They think they can force us back to the old ways," First Guardian commented from his new seat. He had been one of the first to support Earth's reforms. "They have gathered every ship they could find." Miller smiled. "Watch." As the rebel fleet approached, they suddenly stopped. Not because of weapons or shields, but because every ship's crew could suddenly see the truth. Human technology was broadcasting direct evidence of how their leaders had lied to them, stolen from them, used them. "No shots fired," Reed noted calmly. "No lives lost. Just truth." Within hours, the rebel fleet was sending requests to join the new council, not out of fear, but because they finally understood what humanity had known all along. Real power wasn't about control. It was about making things better for everyone. "Update from Earth," a technician called out. The screen changed to show humanity's homeworld. The barrier was gone, replaced by open invitation. Ships from across the galaxy were arriving, not to trade or fight, but to learn. 6 new learning centers established, Reed reported, teaching everything from advanced physics to ethical governance. All free, all open to any species willing to use the knowledge wisely. Miller looked around the chamber, remembering how different it had been just a month ago. Any reports of problems? Resistance? Complaints? First Guardian checked his data. Only about the speed of change. Some worlds are struggling to keep up with all the improvements. He paused. A good problem to have. Remind them there's no rush. Reed said, "We spent centuries watching and waiting. We can spend centuries teaching and helping." The chamber filled with murmurs of agreement. The galaxy was transforming, not through war or conquest, but through humanity's unique approach, patient observation, careful planning, and the wisdom to use power for progress instead of control. As the session ended, Miller and Reed stood at the chamber's huge window, watching ships from 100 worlds moving peacefully through space. "Think they understand yet?" Miller asked quietly. "Why we hid for so long?" Reed smiled. "They're learning, just like we did, that the greatest power isn't in weapons or technology. It's in the choice of how to use them," Miller finished. Below them, the galaxy continued to change, one world at a time. Earth's long silence had ended not with a bang of conquest, but with the quiet triumph of wisdom over force. The galaxy had feared Earth's power. Instead, they discovered Earth's heart, and that made all the difference.